What a round of applause for Joe. Joe, I'm very humbled. I'm very humbled by your words and your example. We're incredibly proud of you. I told my staff this morning you could go online and find an old picture of me. If you ever wondered what I looked like, first time I ran for office. But I didn't have a fraction of the judgment, the discernment, the wisdom that this young man has. So we're very proud of you. As I know your dad is, and he's not as proud of you as he is of your brother, but
That's
true.
Hang in there. There's time. I mean, you guys can get there. Parnell, thank you so much for that. A really eloquent devotion to start us off with. Deeply meaningful to me, and one that I'll carry from here as a real blessing. Thank you all for coming. It's great to be with you. We're having a great time in Iowa. I was just out at the Old Thresher Festival. Man, you guys know how to throw a party. I mean, we got, somebody says to me, it's like a tractor festival, and I go, good, we do those all the time in Indiana, but like, not with 50,000 people. I mean, it was really pretty, it was pretty amazing, and we just love being out there. It's kind of home court advantage for me, you know. I'm a small town guy from southern Indiana, but I grew up with a cornfield in my backyard. My mom and dad were Southside Chicago kids. My dad was a combat veteran in the Korean War. My mom is 90 years young. So first generation Irish American, precocious, unstoppable, meaner than a hornet. But she's still looking after me and my 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and I think about 17 grandchildren. The last time that was one counted. I'll back into the most important things in my life. You know, that I became a grandfather 3 times over in the last 2 years since I saw you saw me last, and so we're. When I think about just think about the odds. I mean, all the blessings I've had in my life. I mean, what statistically speaking, what are the odds that we would also have the 3 most beautiful granddaughters ever born in history? I mean, just think about that. You know. My son's a captain in the Marine Corps. He and his wife gave us 2 of those little girls. Michael's a fighter pilot, stationed in Arizona. He leaves for Top Gun in 2 weeks. So if you remember to pray for our boy, we'd be grateful for it. One of my unworthy son-in-law is also a fighter pilot. Henry is a lieutenant and an F-18 pilot in the Navy, married to my daughter, who is actually a best-selling writer. I just finished and just so you have a complete set, Daryl, I'll make sure you get a copy of my next book. Charlotte and I just finished a book that's much more personal. That was a very personal book for me to write, the autobiography, but the book we just finished was born in the fact that somebody came up to me when it was announced, Joe, that I was doing my autobiography, and they said, you know, hey, I'd really like to read the story of your political career. You know, it's been interesting, but they said, the story I really want to read is how do you have a family like yours, living the life you've lived? And I was very humbled by that. And so we ended up writing a real sweet little couple 100-page book. It's entitled Go Home for Dinner. And it's just little lessons that our families try to put into practice. There's scripture at the top of every chapter, and hopefully it'll be a blessing to people. But the greatest blessing of my life is my wife of 38 years, Karen, who would be with me, but she had a couple of personal appointments back in Indiana this week. But I know she'd want me to thank all your spouses, because we approach this thing, always have, as a team. And as we approach this decision, it was you know, when I ran for Congress 20 years ago. Okay, for the 3rd time, I lost the first 2. She supported me running. When I decided to run for governor, it was more mutual in this regard. But you know, when we got called to be vice president as a candidate, when we thought through this decision, we felt we both needed a mutual calling, separate and independent. And so she's very much. You'll see her here in Iowa. She's the best part of our family. The most important thing in my life is that having been raised in a church home, you know, church on Sunday mornings and grace before dinner, I lost interest in religion by the time I started to experience some social success in high school. kind of thought that religion was just a crutch. Some people needed it. I didn't. You know, I was pretty convinced of my own abilities and, you know, my high calling, destiny in life, you know. And, but when I got off to college, for all of my social success and confidence on the outside, I just, I knew there was something missing in my life. And I started to meet these guys in college and started talking to me about having a personal relationship with God. It was foreign to me. I never really, it wasn't part of my background. I grew up in a very, very traditional state of church environment, and it just wasn't, I thought Jesus had died to save the world from its sins, but I thought it was a large thing, not personal. And but I started talking to these guys, and they started to challenge me, and they invited me to a Christian fellowship group on campus, and I think I went back mostly because there were a fair number of attractive co-eds that attended the fellowship group. But it was along the way, I'll never forget this one guy that just retired after 30 years in ministry. He retired. He gave his last sermon at Tabernacle Presbyterian Church in inner city Indianapolis. John Gable. John was a senior. I was a freshman. And I remember I decided to go ahead and be Christian. You know, I thought that'd be fine. I could identify myself as Christian. John wore this very fashionable cross. It was kind of small, understated, still a guy-looking thing. I thought it was good. So I started bothering him about it. And everybody in this room almost is old enough to remember life before you could order the whole world on your phone. Mm-hmm. So I said, "Where'd you get that?" He said, "Oh, you know, I got a catalog. I ordered it out of the catalog." So I kept bugging him to give me the catalog so I could call. And one day in the fraternity cafeteria, Joe, he was walking away from me, and I said, "Hey, John, don't forget to get me that catalog. You know, I'm gonna get that cross. You know, be Christian." And he turned and looked at me. It says he never remembers saying this, but he turned and looked at me, and he said, "You know, you got to wear it in your heart before you wear it around your neck, Mike." Mm-hmm. And he walked up the stairs. Mm-hmm. And if you'd have hit me in the face with a baseball bat, I wouldn't have been more stunned. I mean, I just felt like he all of a sudden, you know, pulled the mask off. And so he knew I was a phony. He knew I was just posing. Mm-hmm. So then I got invited to a Christian music festival, the early days of contemporary Christian music. Mm-hmm. And something that was kind of billed to be thank you, buddy. It was kind of billed to be a Christian answer to Woodstock. It was. It was at a place called Asbury University in Kentucky. It was a little bit in the news recently. And so I went there and I started hearing Christian music and then preaching in between. And it was on a rainy night, sitting on a hillside, drizzle coming down. And I heard, like for the first time, God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son, that whoever might believe in him might not perish, but have everlasting life. And I remember I stood up not because I'd suddenly become convinced of the truth of that history, but because my heart was literally broken for what was done for me on the cross. And I walked down, found a young pastor who was prayed to receive Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior. Changed my life forever. I was born again. And became a really obnoxious young Christian back on campus. I literally am wearing the Jesus t-shirts. I was reading the Bible voraciously, everything I could get my hands on, and I, you know, forever, however many years it's been, you know, he continues to be the lodestar of our marriage, the lodestar of our lives, and I only consider myself a growing Christian. If you want to just ask me with my wife, I'm not grown. I've got ways to go, but it's the reason why I'll leave you with this, and I'd love to hear what's on your mind, what you might be curious about, or what you might want us to be thinking about. Is I just want you to know that you know, I'm running for president because I think the country's in a lot of trouble. I mean, frankly, our life was pretty good the last couple of years. I bought 5 acres and a pond. I got to travel around, give speeches, made a little bit of money, which I wasn't accustomed to. My brothers and I grew up to be rich and famous. They're rich and I'm famous. And granddaughters, and you know, actually, it would have been fairly easy to sit this one out. I feel like we've done 20 years. Congress, governor, vice president. But I just kept thinking, you know, to whom much is given, much will be required.
Mm.
And Karen and I just feel like this country's given our country so much. And the people of this country have given us so many privileges to serve and to develop experiences that I know we could put into, I know we could put to work to turn the country around. I would know. I can't tell you, I'd never lecture people in Iowa about how you choose presidential candidates. In Indiana, we just get to watch you people. It's interesting. If I ran into a presidential candidate back in Indiana, I'd have had a heart attack. You know, you guys, it's a very customary thing around here.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I don't know what the next 18 months looks like. But I'm running because I have a deep conviction that if I had the privilege of raising my right hand again on a platform on the west side of the Capitol, I would know what to do and who to do it with on day one to turn this country around. And I'm also running with a deep conviction that God is not done with America yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that what I would say to each and every one of you is, whatever podium I ever get to speak behind, whether it's in the well of Congress or on platforms, it will never in my mind be as important as the pulpits that you speak behind, ever. That I just want you to know, I think in this country, what you do and your voice and your ministry, being the hands and feet of Christ, is in the lead for the cure for what ails America. So I